Hello and welcome to Heart Yoga Radio. We're having our walk through the hills today. It's a bit windy, but hopefully the recording will be alright. This is the next episode in our Lao Tzu series. We tried this one a couple of days ago but got rained off. So we've had a good talk about this one already, and we already decided that this one is definitely in our top 10 favourite chapters. We really, really like this one. And again, it's very relevant to modern times and what we're all living through at the moment, and also what we all hope would happen. All right then, so let's have a read through and see what we think.
Yeah, it's chapter 54. What is built on rock cannot be pulled down. What is held lightly can never be lost. Meditate on virtue within yourself, and you will find the benefit of virtue. Use it as the ground for the family, and your virtue will last for generations. Take it as your guidance for the village, and the place will blossom for years to come. Use it to guide the nation, and that nation will create abundance. Be guided by it for the whole, and it will flood its way over the world. So, look at someone else as you would yourself, and treat other families as you would your own. Seek your community in other communities. Think of all countries as part of your being, and treasure the world as the round centre of everything. How can I see the world like this? Because I have eyes.
So I'm sure you can see why this is one of our favourites, and underlined. So look at someone else as you would look at yourself, and treat other families as you would your own. That's the world I want to live in, for sure.
Yeah.
That people actually have empathy and compassion for each other,
yeah.
And including all the people who run the world.
Yeah.
I mean, how great would that be?
It would be absolutely fantastic. Now, so Lao Tzu's allowing himself some utopian speculation here. And it's quite upbeat for him, because as we know, he's sort of quite laconic. But it's a debate that's very alive and well, very current, grumbling on between ethno-nationalists and cosmopolitans. And it's very central to the whole struggle in our present day to move into a future which gives people a good life across the planet, as opposed to people who believe business as usual is an option, and that climate change is a hoax and all the rest of it, you know, and the economic system is perfectly fine. And it boils down to this kind of theme, and there it was, 2,500 years ago. Same point was being made even then.
Shall we go? Let's start from the beginning and just go through it line by line.
Yeah, that's a good way of approaching it. So the first bit, what is built on rock cannot be pulled down. What is held lightly can never be lost. Meditate on virtue within yourself, and you will find the benefit of virtue. So the first two stanzas indicate what the meditation is, and the third stanza tells you to crack on with it, because there is a benefit attaching to it. So again, he's talking about meditation and then its effect on the world, the way it translates into a kind of politics. Again, this is Lao Tzu's thing, isn't it? He wants to ground politics in, can we call it self-knowledge, self-understanding. So I'm saying here that the meditation is to, at least in its preparatory phase, you know, it's to build on rock. It's to build on rock rather than on sand or on bog or marsh. Build on rock. And that basically is saying have just very solid foundations within your person. Find the solid foundations. to my mind, that at least in part means not relying on just pure speculation or wish fulfillment fantasy in yourself, in your way of being. Not relying on what you wish, but relying on what is. Because what is the rock. It's hard. The rock is the hard rock. Give you a good foundation. But then in contrast to that, what is held lightly can never be lost. So even though we're talking about firm foundations, which you might think is a counsel of rigidity, of grasping on, you say no, a light touch, light grasp. Don't hold on to stuff too fiercely.
Because if you do, and you're grasping on too tightly, you crush the very thing that you want to preserve.
You do, yeah, and you wear yourself out as well.
Yeah.
But the light touch, you can't lose it. You can have your solid foundation, but then a light touch. And that's the, you might say, the sort of groundwork of then meditating on virtue. You have to be very careful with the word virtue. Lao Tzu doesn't mean as Nietzsche put it, the chastity of an old maid. Or, by contrast, the original meaning of the word, its Latin word, virtue, the bravery and fighting spirit of a warrior, or of a soldier. It's a word that's over time been subjected to so much semantic drift that it's actually not that useful here. Actually, virtue is the way that the word Tai in Tao Te Ching is translated, or dirt as it's properly pronounced. And it just generally gets, as a matter of conventional matter, translated as virtue, but it's got its own special meaning. And Tai is the way in which the unspeakable Tao manifests itself in the world of processes. It's the movement and dance of the world. That includes our consciousness, our internality, our moods, our desires, our fulfillments, our inner states, our ecstasies. They're included in it too, but it's also the wind and the weather and the sea and the mist in the mountains and the plants growing and the animals doing their animal thing and the beetles doing their beetly thing and all the rest of it. It's the processes of the world. And you meditate on virtue within yourself. You meditate on your own process. And that is really a matter, and I keep saying this, is a matter of just being open and receptive to what's going on. It's not to what is exactly, because that has sort of connotations of stasis, of everything being a bit static. Or it's more about, as I say, what's going on, because there's always something going on. Everything is in movement. Lao Tzu is a movement philosopher and a movement meditator. So meditating on virtue is being with the processes of yourself. And if you meditate with your eyes open, which you can do, sitting on a rock up a misty mountain, meditate on the swirling of the mist and the sound of the river. It's all about process. So meditating on virtue within yourself, and you will find the benefit of virtue. Well, the benefit of virtue is to understand that this is how the world is, including our own inner world, as an aspect of the world. That it's movement, that it's virtue, that it's movement that flows out of the Tao, which is contained by the Tao, embraced by the Tao, but which is also suffused by the Tao. The Tao is also in its veins and capillaries. So that's what he means by the meditation on the virtue within yourself.
Wanted to pause there and let you enjoy the bird song and the stream.
Yes.
Very good nice for us to see some water in the stream, because
it's been a bit dry, isn't it?
Very dry to the point of being a bit dangerous for the hill fires like we had last year. But we've just had quite a lot of rain, so it's all good for now.
It's very green. Anyway, So that's the first 3 lines, and it's a little instruction on meditation, but it's a practical thing for Lao Tzu. You will find the benefit of virtue. You will find the benefit of meditation on day. As the first movement of the day into the sphere of what's obvious to us as human consciousness. And to say again, practical, pragmatic. Just put it to use. It's something to be put to use politically and practically, and in terms of the organisation of society and of human collectivity. So his first use is put it to use as the ground for the family, and your virtue will last for generations. I mean, he's noticing that families have cultures. Certain habits, certain modes of being, certain traditions can be carried down through families. And probably in this time when Lao Tzu was writing, that was a common thing, If a father was a doctor, the son, maybe the daughter would become a doctor, and then the grandson, they've got family traditions. So you could have a tradition which carried down the understanding of the Tao through generations. I mean, we see similar patterns, that of abuse that can get carried down through generations and so forth. You get family culture. But he's saying, if that work of building a family, because you are in a family, and maybe you're the head of a family, that work of building the family, preserving and enhancing the family, that if it's grounded in this understanding of the process, the big process of everything, that you will create a profound and beautiful family tradition. But again, it takes it up a layer, an organisational layer, into the village. Again, if you're the head of a village, or even just an influential person in a village, just a person who is listened to, maybe a teacher or whatever, you bring this meditational insight to the work of organising the village. So it's all organised around processes and about the knack of going with processes and using the flow for the benefit of the village. This will be immensely fruitful. And this is true. It's just true. Go up a notch, up to another layer of organisation, to a slightly more complex organisation. Now we've got the nation. Again, it's practical. It's a matter of putting it to use. Use it to guide the nation, and the nation will create abundance. And we always wish that our politicians and leaders were wise, and that they are generally as far from it as you can be. For various reasons, we're not blessed with leaders or rulers or people with authority and power and political power who have any inkling of this stuff.
It's almost like round at the few hundred most horrible people in the country and vote for them. Oh, and the most stupid people in the country as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It sounds harsh, but there you go. And then he goes up another notch to another level of organisation, to the level of the global community, the world. And he says, be guided by it for the whole, and it will flood its way over the world. So even in those days, he's imagining organisation, communal, collective organisation on a global scale that's informed by intimate knowledge of the flow of things. I mean, what a visionary. And as I say, he's normally sort of quite laconic, a bit grumpy perhaps, but it's an expansive day, And of course all this translates into an allegiance to cosmopolitanism and to empathy and to seeing your connection with others. And to wanting to share. I mean, you're a bloody communist, or an anarcho-communist or something. But definitely not an ethno-nationalist, This is a plea to the antithesis of the small-mindedness of xenophobia, and small nationalism. It's a plea for that. And this is the bit that you like. So look at someone else as you would yourself. Just have that fellow feeling for others, that understanding for others, because you're a person too, and they're a person too. It's pretty simple. Treat other families as you would your own. See your community in other communities. Think of all countries as part of your being, and treasure the world as the round centre of everything. I think without this attitude becoming prevalent, or at least
a good proportion of people.
Yeah, a bit more common than it is. That there really is no hope in our current situation, because we've been going the other way for so long by now.
Yeah. And
there's 7 billion of us, and if 6 billion of us are completely fucking crazy, there's no hope. And then this is absolute sanity, and it sounds like utopian excess. That of course this could never ever be possible.
But this is possible within me, because that list there of like how you feel, how you see the world is how I actually see the world.
Indeed, yeah. But that is the common counter argument to anybody who says that the world could be far better, and for the many, not the few. The amount of boil that's invited by people making this kind of stance is kind of utterly astonishing, and it's often accompanied by accusations of delusion or unreality. But the truth of the matter is, it's regenerate along these lines, or die. By die, I mean become extinct. And Lao Tzu insists that all this is possible. And he preempts the critics of the type I've just outlined by saying, how can I see the world like this? Can you imagine somebody, saying, grow up, how can you see the world like that? That's not, the world isn't like that. We're all every man for himself. The individual matters. Selfishness is very important. When I get rich, maybe I'll give some charity, but prior to that, I'm for me, and then maybe for my family. There is no such thing as society. There are only individuals, and maybe begrudgingly, and their families. This is the opposite of that. So he's replying to people who are going to throw that at him. How can I see the world like this? He says, because I have eyes. In other words, the meditation on virtue gives you eyes. It gives you the capacity for vision. It gives you the capacity to see the possibilities of human life. It gives you the capacity to see the way stuff actually does work in terms of the processes. Even that's a breakthrough. You will see the world differently once you're alert to the process nature of everything.
And the reason why it makes us see the world differently is not because it puts like a whole load of new stuff in there, but because it gets rid of all the crap, yes, which is tinting your vision with xenophobia, racism, selfishness, and then fear of that is being used and manipulated by the right-wing press, etc., etc. Yeah. See, well, once that's gone, then you can see clearly.
Well, as he says, it's a daily decrease. Perhaps the positive thing that you're doing is giving yourself the strong foundation and the light touch. And thereafter you open, sensitively open to what's going on. And that gives you some knowledge about the nature of the way things do go on, the way the world moves. And that in turn makes you realise that the human beings are capable of realising these good things on earth.
Okay, so I think that's a wrap on that one. Definitely really like that one. So I hope you enjoyed that, found it interesting. And it's time. Thank you for coming on this nice walk with us today, being lightly burned by the sunshine today. I hope you're all well, and speak to you soon.
Make knowledge great again.